Barnaby Nagy is a nutcase, a flat earther, mud flooder, and so on. He's haven't been seen for almost a year. But now I have found something new from this fool. In the end of Barnaby's career he moved on to Odyssey, but he haven't posted there either for a year. But now I have found the latest from him. It's from a podcast called Narrative Radio. This is a podcast, so it's no video, no images. So what I'm showing here is my illustration to this podcast. Let's start this dumpster fire.
Welcome back to another podcast, ladies and gentlemen. This is a very special episode. Today, I have one of my favorite alternative researchers. His name's Barnaby Nagy.
Barnabas don't do any real research at all.
Barnabas has a YouTube channel that has some videos that will make you really question the nature of the reality that we find ourselves in.
No, watch his channel and you know that that man is not sane at all. It's so stupid theories he presents on his channel.
Barnabas, thank you so much for coming on the show. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling really good.
Cool.
How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing great, actually. I'm really happy that you're here.
Nice.
When I first stumbled across your videos, you were doing a lot of content on YouTube, and you've kind of slowed down a little bit with the censorship and stuff, but
conspiracy nutcases loves to scream censorship when they are spreading lies, fantasies, and dangerous theories.
One of the first videos that I caught were you talking about our false history, how there may be like Tartaria, like a country that was like a world empire that was kind of like wiped from history, wiped from the maps, a missing 1,000-year period that could possibly be happening. And then also one of the most compelling things I saw you do a video on was about the coins that kind of have the I and the J instead of like the 1 for like 1755 or 1866 or whatever it may be. I wanted to get into that a little bit. Can you kind of tell us how you came across this line of research and what conclusions you've drawn?
I'm sure that his so-called research is based on looking on other conspiracy nutcases videos on YouTube, listening to silly podcasts from fools like you, and so on. Let's hear Barnaby's explanation.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's a really fascinating story, to be honest. I kind of have been a researcher for a long time, more than 10 years, and I was researching lots of things. So I got started with a kind of 9/11, and then I got into the New World Order kind of things, you know, the secret societies, Skull and Bones and stuff like that, Freemasons. And I guess for some reason, I don't know, it was just probably in my feed on YouTube, I was searching for something, and I saw this video about, you know, the fake history, mud flood and things like that. And I was really intrigued by it. And I started to research, watch more videos from all the sources that I could.
To watch videos from random strangers and fools on YouTube is not to make research.
There wasn't many at that time because, it was just like a new thing. Somehow it came out. So I got into that, and I think the first thing that I looked at was the Tartaria and mud flood connection.
And there are no evidence for mud flood or Tartaria.
And that was really interesting because, like for me, whenever I went to an excursion, like a school excursion, we always had to go like to some old building, castle, parliament, whatnot. And for me as a child, it was never interesting. Like it was like, I don't know why the heck are we here? What are we doing here? Like, okay, it's an old building, but why is it important, or what is it?
To understand the world today, it's important to know our history. But perhaps that's too complicated for nutcases like Barnaby.
And I never really understood like why did people put so much effort into decorating these buildings, build it in the way they are. Like why is it just not like a simple building, like we used to build?
One of the things that I've
Europe.
noticed is we don't build like that anymore, which is always
Yeah,
stood
we
out to me.
don't.
It's like, why don't we build like that anymore when those buildings
Yeah.
are so much cooler looking than the ones we see now?
Exactly.
Oh dear, why doesn't our ships look like this nowadays? Why doesn't our cars look like this nowadays? These two clowns are too stupid, oh dear.
I mean, for me, it just looked like old, and it didn't really fascinate me when I was a child, obviously. And then when I found out about Tartaria and the mud flood, I was like, oh my god, what's going on here? Like now it started to make sense. Like maybe there was another civilization that had the time, had the resources, had the power, the energy, the technology to build this stuff. And perhaps that's why they do it this way, or perhaps they use it as energy devices or some kind of sound device. There are lots of different theories that we can go into.
Theories. I would call it fantasies, because none of this is proven in any way. It's pure bullshit and fantasies.
And so yeah, I from someone who I was really not interested in history back then and these old buildings, I got really interested in it.
You are not interested in history in any way, shape or form. You were interested in conspiracies, lies and fantasies.
And that's how it started. And yeah, then I got like emails from all over the world, when I started to show the proof for Tartaria and the mud flood, and like lots of people from everywhere, man. Like they send me evidences from Australia to the US, back in Europe, everywhere, man. It was just crazy. My comments were exploding, and yeah, it was really interesting. Like everyone have seen something that I haven't, and it was leading me to a next journey or next discovery, which led me another discovery. So it was just like going with the flow, being in the natural law and just continuing my research. Yeah, and it was really just right.
Someone sends an email with a photo on an old building, and he thinks he made research when he claims that this building is from Tartaria or it's the mud flood. That's not research, you fool. You're fantasizing about buildings you see on an image from places you never visited, and you never check any facts, any history of those buildings.
Okay, perfect. So this missing 1,000-year theory, like I've seen some really compelling evidence for this, and then I also kind of believed like I'm a Christian, right? So I believe like the world's around 6,000 years old, more or less, like the Bible says. I don't believe in like the evolutionary tale of billions of years and all that kind of stuff. So like for me, for them to say that we have billions of years, but then there's evidence that we might really, you know, be missing 1,000 years from our possible like 6,000 or 7,000 year timeline. There's a lot of discrepancies there, and it's really, really fascinating to me. Like, what are your thoughts on this? Like, the Dark Ages never existed, or that Rome is like fictionalized and wasn't really like an ancient empire, like in the way that they portray it, like in history books. Like, what has your research led you to conclude?
So, according to the host of this podcast, the world is 6,000 years old and there are missing 1,000 years. Do you have any evidence for that? Of course not.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting thing. So the whole Tartarian mud flood led me to, and also the J and I for Jesus and ESOs, which is the Greek version of Jesus, led me to conclude that probably there was some sort of civilization reset. I think that's one of the biggest thing that they are hiding from us, that every 200, 300, 400 years, I don't know exactly, there was some kind of civilization reset. And it's kind of like a cycle. It's going on and on. And based on what I have seen, we were kind of like we are on the verge of one. And I don't know what are the dependencies of whether that can go through. It's probably us if we stand up, or there's enough, power to hold them back. But I think the civilization reset kind of thing was the peak of my research.
The peak of his research. I would call it the peak of his stupidity.
There are lots of research about storytelling, for instance. So in psychology, storytelling is a big thing. That's how marketers tell a story for people to believe in a product and then buy it, right?
Barnaby is a storyteller, or more exact, he's a liar and a fool.
And it's because we are, as human beings, are wired to listen to stories. That's how we operate. Our brain operates with stories. Like if you come home and you have a day, you tell stories to your spouse or to your children, it's a storytelling, right? You have a story about your childhood, you have a story about how you got your job, everything is a story. You tell a story and people listen to it because stories are, fascinating. That's how we are wired. And I think they use that kind of thing against us. So
who are they, and why are they hiding 1,000 years of history and so on?
They use these stories of old wars and empires, just like you referred to, as kind of like a backstory in our mind to believe that we are living in this age and what kind of evolution we went through and all that. And I also don't believe that evolution is a story that we should believe in. I'm not gonna accept that I'm from a monkey. Yeah, and I kind of just by accident I formed to be a human being. It's like bullshit.
Barnaby perhaps is evolved from a monkey, but the rest of humanity hasn't. We have evolved from the same ancestors as the monkeys. It's a very big difference.
But yeah, I think they use these as backstories. And I think one reference I can give you is a series that I will recommend to anyone who is researching all that, is Westworld. Don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah, I've seen it with the androids on HBO.
Yes. Yeah, like it's a crazy movie, like a crazy series. And there we see that these robots or humanoids are given backstories backstories so that they can operate. And without that backstories, they cannot operate. So they need to have some sort of backstory, like what was their childhood, like where did they come from, their upbringing, their school, and everything.
Yeah.
And these backstories give a person a meaning, like where they can place themselves, like in the ether, basically. It's obviously intangible, but it's something you can, like you understand where you are, who you are, and I think that's why they give us these backstories about the history, which most of it is, I think, is fake. And the additional, like 1,000 years, I don't even if that's true or not, how it is, but I think they were definitely manipulating time.
So here giving people who want to make research Westwood as a source for information. That's fiction. Oh dear, it's only a fairy tale. That's not making research. This is a very long podcast. I will end it now. I wanted to listen to parts of it to see how crazy is his theories. And as you all probably already have noticed, they are crazy and based on fantasies, and he have made no research at all. Thank you everybody helping Ukraine. All ad revenues, donations and so on goes to buying drones to be sent to Ukraine. Big thank you all. That was all for this time. It was a bit different video than usual, but it's not so much flat earth to be found at YouTube. So I have to chase them on other platforms. I will be back soon. Have a nice day. Bye.